Good morning. It is yet another spectacular day. Actually, to be fair, it did start off pretty cloudy this morning, but like by sort of 10 o'clock, it's perfect blue skies yet again. So I was up here yesterday. We actually came up just to pick some stuff for dinner. We needed some rocket and that kind of thing. We got that rocket actually that I transplanted the other week has come absolutely fantastic. So we took some of that home for dinner. But while we were up here, we were kind of working out what we were going to do today. And I mocked up a few different versions of how we're going to make the compost bin. The logical way to have it would just be the four sides, you know, bish, bash, bosh. But unfortunately, just where it sticks out, we're limited to kind of the positioning that it can be in, and it just gets slightly too close to the first one of our raised beds. And so I've got one now that's upright in portrait mode rather than landscape mode up there. So it looks a little bit weird, but I think practically it's going to be absolutely fine. Often we put slats across the front to, you know, so that you can have them half full, totally full, all the rest of it. But actually, because it's the first bin, like bin number one in the system where we're just chucking all the new stuff, it's really only the other two bins that we need the front system that can come down. So I'm just going to plonk one big one in the front. So it's going to be just a closed box, basically, chuck everything in. Open bottomed. The other two bins, we have plastic sheeting on the bottom. This is really mainly to stop roots and rats and things coming up from underneath. Not that it would stop the rats if they really wanted it, but you know what I mean. Roots are a problem. Roots come straight up because obviously the nutrition in the compost heap, the soil is just like, the roots of the trees must reach it and be like, oh my God, it's heaven. So they all fire up into the compost bin. So just putting that plastic sheeting on really helps with that. But the first bin, when that first process of composting is happening, we just want it to be kind of open to the bottom so all the microbes and worms and everything all comes up from underneath. So it's not going to have a bottom, but it is going to have sides, otherwise the compost just disappears into the internals of the pallet. So I'm going to go and drill that together now. It's a little bit uneven, but I think when I've drilled it all together properly, it will hold itself. And I've got a couple of half bricks to shove under, you know, to level it up a bit. That's the point. I need my level. That will help. Okay, let's go and attack the compost bin. Where has the sun gone? It's suddenly windy and grey. What happened? Oh, no, sun's back, sun's back. We are compost bin rich, chaps. This one's huge. I'm really pleased with that. We can get going. So that's open at the bottom like that, and it's going to be open at the top too, so the rain gets in. These two bins, so this is bin number 2 where it gets turned into, we don't want that to get wet. So that's now got a lid, and also the end bin where we will have the final sifted compost for use has also got a lid. Fab, tick. Next on the list, courgettes in that bed there. Am I pleased with that? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. But yeah, like I was saying, courgettes is the next thing on the list for today, which is very exciting, and we have a rather exciting strategy to try out. So this here is the bed that the courgettes are going to go into this year. We have this problem with animals digging up our beds, whether it be badgers, foxes, rats, whatnot. We've got plenty of strategies underway here to try and stop them. But there's some crops, it's like for brassicas and stuff like that, it's perfectly fine because they need to be protected from birds anyway. So big netting over the top, it's necessary, you know. But for things like courgettes, they don't really want to be covered in netting. They're absolutely fine. The birds aren't going to get them. They need access to pollinators, they need all that kind of thing. And also when everything's covered in netting, like courgettes, you want to be picking them, you know, quick and fast when they're in season. And when you've got all this netting to take off and then you've got to secure it at the edges and everything, it's an absolute nightmare. Well, let me introduce you to our latest freebie find. We have a little section up here at the allotment. Actually, do you know what? While I'm saying this, I'm just going to get out of the sun for a minute because facing you is blooming blinding. Is that better? Yes, a little bit. So that mesh, we don't have a lot of infrastructure up here, but what we do have is kind of an unspoken agreement that if you leave stuff in this particular area by the gate, then it's stuff that you've thought you don't want, but it might be useful to someone else. And that roll of mesh. So we picked that up from there. Somebody's obviously pre-used it because it's got bits and pieces cut out of it. But what I'm going to do is lay it across the bed. It just happens to be exactly 1.20 metre wide, which is just wonderful because that's the size of our beds. I'm going to lay it across the entire bed after I've mulched it, watered it, lay that on top, cut it to the right length, and then peg it all the way along so that it stays there for the whole growing season. And then I'm going to use my little wire cutters to cut out holes and plant my courgettes through it. That's the plan. Let's see how it works. See, I'm thinking this has got a really good chance of working. I mean, it wouldn't work for all crops, obviously, but something with a single stem like the courgettes or in fact brassicas, etc., etc., I can just see I could just plant through and it's going to work. It's going to stop any digging because, I mean, brassicas are slightly different, as I was saying, because they need to be netted for other things, for butterflies and birds and all that kind of stuff. But courgettes do not need to be netted. Nothing eats courgettes other than slugs, and no amount of netting is going to save them from slugs. So, yeah, this has potential, chaps. Did I mulch it? No, I did not. okay, I'm pretty happy with that. We've got a little bit of an issue that the pegs are pulling out. They're not holding it down tight, but that's because what was in this bed last year was potatoes early in the season, and we grew some other stuff over it. But this spring, obviously, as is what happens when you've grown potatoes in the ground, is that they all started coming up again. So just before having done this, we've dug through this whole bed, and Mum has been digging roots out of it, and we've dug through the whole bed, like taking out last year's leftover potatoes. So the ground itself is really, really loose. Whereas if you stick a peg in one of the beds that hasn't like been dug, normally we wouldn't dig over a bed. This just had to have that happen. When you stick a peg in another bed, it holds really tight, but these ones, because the soil is so loose underneath, they're just not quite holding, but over time they will. So now what I've got to do is work out how many courgettes I've got to go in this bed. Where did I put them? Over there. Okay, so what do we actually have in here? This isn't all courgettes. This is melons, cucumbers, courgettes, and there's also some butternut squash in there. So they're not all courgettes. But we have got, how many of what? Right, we've got 2 Bianca, which are the white ones from Amalfi. That's fantastic. 2 of those, okay. Then we've got 1 cassata, 2 striata, and who's that? Oh, no Verdi d'Italia. We do have Milano, so, okay, I might have to take them out of the tray. It's a bit tricky to see, but I reckon 6 would be ideal placing in this bed, but we could definitely get away with 8. So let me get them out of the tray and see what we got here. Now, what was cassata? Was that a courgette or a... Can't remember. I can't remember. I'll have a look. Anyway, I know that we've got melons on this end, sugar baby and Minnesota midget. We've got 2 of each. Long de chin, that's 2 cucumbers. There's a butternut squash and an acorn squash. Now, I think the rest of them are actually courgettes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 8. It works out a beauty. I've just got some little markers because I've got my 8, but doing it visually on this grid, I'm just going to put the pots down where I want the courgette so I can check that they're relatively evenly spaced, because it'd be extremely annoying to cut a hole in the wrong place. Let's just get these out of the way for a minute. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, of course. I'm not an exact kind of person, you may have noticed. But it would be nice for them to at least look evenly spaced. I'm not actually sure how big a hole I'm going to have to cut in here to make it easy. I mean, the root balls of those are really small because they're still in their cell tray. But are they going to be easy enough to actually get a trowel in there? I suppose the hori is nice and narrow, isn't it? Hori to the rescue. Right, now I don't think I'm going to plant these in any special order. So the bed itself, this end gets more sunshine than this end. Not by a wild amount, but by the afternoon, when the sun starts dipping below those trees, this end gets about 20 minutes more than that end, which makes an enormous difference in the winter, but not so much in the summer. I wonder if I plant the 2 Bianchi at that end though. Oh, I'm gonna put a Bianchi here. I'm gonna put a Bianchi here. So these are the little tiny white ones that we got from Amalfi, and they're absolutely beautiful. We did learn a lesson with them last year though, is that you can't really just let them get big. And when I was actually eating them in Amalfi, they were tiny. They were like that big. Not even, you know, when you pick courgettes young and they're sort of this sort of size, and they're too big then. They're much rounder. They're more like a zeppelin shape, and you don't really want them bigger than about that because the inside becomes very seedy. Nobody likes seedy. Right, make sure we got down into the soil. And that lined up there. So in terms of depth, I don't know if you've listened to Alex and I's latest episode of Common Ground podcast, but it came out on Friday, episode 2, and the theme of it is young plants, and we discussed quite a lot actually the depth that you plant seedlings, and the general consensus, apart from a few exceptions like tomatoes and such, like chard is an exception as well, keep it level. This wasn't the pot it came in, so there's no point me showing you that, is it? But you know, when you're planting it out, just match it up. They don't have to go deeper, higher, match it up. General rule. Okay, well, I've got all these different varieties and I haven't actually brought any labels up with me, so that's a bit daft, isn't it? That's a bit daft. Right, let's put one over there. Go and get some labels before I get too carried away with this. Stick that in there anyway. Bianca, how many am I going to need? I need to do some en masse sharpening here. Everything's blunt. That'll do. Hey girlies, I know, what's it like being out and about? How was it like being out and about, that girlie? It's a label, that's my finger. Yeah, what about you, Wins? Is it nice being out? Is it nice, girlies? Yes. Unfortunately, it's only Ruby and Winnie who are out because the others are being lunatics inside. They've gone broody, or they're still broody. Hey? Beautiful girls, yes, freedom. Okay. Right, who's next? Who's next? We have Caserta. I'm sure Caserta was a courgette, I can't remember now. Okay, I've looked up Caserta. It is a courgette and it looks absolutely gorgeous. It is a mottled, so it's a pale green, like a sage colour green type thing, and then it's got mottled dark green on it, so not striped, you know, like lots of them are very stripy. This is like all mottled. They look absolutely beautiful, and it's got the almighty favourite words next to it. Oh, I feel a bit threatening now. Almighty favourite words, which exceptional flavour. That is what we want. So Caserta is going in here. Who's next? Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. God, I love it. Okay, next up is a striata, which is a true stripy one. Clues in the name there, really, isn't it? The reason I'm really like churning this up when I'm digging it rather than just digging my little hole is because I've just put all of that mulch on. I want to give it a bit of a mix. I'm not just planting straight into that. A bit deep. Just a bit deep. Perfect. Now these Milano ones are really dark. They're like as black as you can get really for a courgette. They're real beauties. I'll do another one of those over here. Absolutely fan-dabby-dozy. Oh, I haven't labelled that Milano. And, oh, that one there. Amusingly, I counted them all. Seem to be one short. Let me just double check. But that one's Milano, isn't it? No, you see, there's an extra one in there, but it's actually Rich Sweetness, which is a melon. So I've got, in terms of pumpkins that are left over, what have we got? Two butternut and one acorn. Then we've got Carmen and Long de Chin cucumbers and Minnesota Midget, Sugar Baby and Rich Sweetness melons. Oh, fantastic. Courgettes are in. Actually, to be fair, it's probably a good thing we don't have all 8. 8 courgettes is too much for anybody. Okay, I remembered there was actually another courgette. It was just planted elsewhere temporarily to get it out of its pot. So yeah, we do have 8 courgettes. It's going to be a fun year. Expect a lot of courgette recipes later on, chaps. Do you know what though? I really hope it is a good year for courgettes, because like one of the joys of having an allotment, or in fact a garden that you grow veg in, or whichever way you do it, is that like the glut, the fear of another courgette, the horror of having a house full of like stacks of things. I mean, it's wonderful, but at the same time you do get this like little sort of jittery about, you know, oh my god, courgettes. And then by the time it's like this time of year, the following year, you're like, please, I'm so desperate for a courgette. But last 2 years we just haven't had it. I mean, last year we didn't have it for a number of reasons. It was just a pants year. But the year before that, we had a lot of problems with them being dug up. Come on, Mesh is all I can say. Let's hope this is the beginning of a new era on plot 37.
Nice and warm in there now.
It'll be hot, hot, hot.
There's no sun out this morning, though.
Woo!
Well, it was 31 in the greenhouse, so it'll be hotter than that in
Yeah,
there.
we need to get some more of those.
Temperature things.
Yeah. Oh, it's not. It's really cool in here. I am pleased to say that everything is looking pretty good in here. All of the tomatoes have grown about double the size since we put them in last week. Everything's looking good. And the coriander that I'm hoping to go to seed is going to seed. You can see it's just starting to produce the seed there, which is exciting. There's this one, and that one in the corner is doing really well. Around the bottom here, we're going to have coriander, basil, Thai basil, all of that, the same stuff that we normally have. But I'm hoping that the coriander, you see, is going to self-seed, because it just grows so much better from self-seeded. Anyway, yeah, that is the polytunnel right now. you being a show-off? Are you being a show-off? Oh, hot cat. Beautiful hot cat. Good morning, we are back again. As you can see, not quite so warm today. Beautiful and sunny, but it's just a bit of a nip in the air. It's quite nice, it's refreshing. Right, today is going to be a bean day. I haven't brought them all up with me. I have left the borlotti beans and the runner beans at home, but I've brought up my, what's the other one? French beans. All three varieties, which is Cobra, Sunshine and Così Violetta. So that's purple, yellow and green. And they're going on the arches. So yesterday we were messing around with the courgettes, trying to plant them through that mesh. That seems to have worked a treat. So obviously we watered them quite late last night. It was about 5 o'clock when we finished doing that last night. And so obviously the watering late at night is always the problem. Like anything you water late at night, they come and dig. There's been nothing touched. Now I know that's only one night. That does not prove that it's a success, but it's a start. They are still in the ground. So the beans, we're not going to plant through mesh on the ground. We're going to form a little bit of a loop, you know, like I put the lettuces under. You remember this setup? This is working really well. Although it's quite flimsy stuff, like once it's pegged down like that, it's really quite strong in that shape. And everything so far this year, touch wood, that we've planted under this stuff has actually had a really good start. That includes the chard that's just behind you, apart from one edge of it got by the girlies yesterday. This is a problem that we haven't had for the last couple of months, so now we've got to get used to covering everything from not only badgers, rats, birds, butterflies, everything else that you could, foxes. We've now also got to protect from the girlies too. But yeah, this is the strategy that I'm going to use for the beans. So I'm going to plant my beans and they're still quite small. I mean, they're about this sort of height, but I'll be able to weave them through this. I'm going to put this down onto the bottom and then they're just going to grow through that permanently for the whole of the season. That is my plan. We'll see how it works. Right, I've got a couple of spares of these somewhere. Let me go and get the beans. So this is the first run I'm going to do them under. Oh, don't kneel on the stick. I'm going to do purple and yellow. Will you just get out of my way, please, stick? Thank you. Purple and yellow up these ones. So I've already actually got, on this side I've got the mesh, and this one I just pinged up because I was picking the rocket that was underneath it. But so these will go like that with the beans growing through them, and then the beans will grow up that side. That is the plan. Never grown them like this before, so we will see. Right, I've got to release this side too. Lettuces under here are doing pretty well. They haven't been disturbed by anything, so I'm optimistic. I was just counting the number of beans that we've got actually. I know, exciting. No, I was doing, like, because we've got 4 arches, obviously. I've got 3 types of French bean. Oh, that one's just gone through. Oh, well, lost it. We've got 3 types of French bean. So we'll have, they're about half an arch each. So we'll have yellow and purple on here, green on the next one. Then I've got a whole arch worth of runner beans, because we love a runner bean and they're absolutely enormous. So I never pair up the runner beans with another bean because they're just so over the top growers that they just swamp anything else. So they always have their own arch. But yeah, so they're going to be a whole arch. Well, that actually leaves us with 1 arch free, because that's 2 half. I'll share the borlotti beans with the green French beans. And yeah, then we've got a whole arch free. The arch that I'm going to leave free is actually the one that's this one that's directly behind me, because the asparagus on that side, hang on, let me just check I'm doing this right. That's Violetta. That's there. The asparagus crowns travel. So we planted them like spaced out in that bed, but actually what they've done is they've moved right under this arch. So they've started to grow on this close edge. Now I don't want to go digging around planting beans in it. So what we're going to do is actually just grow off one side of that arch this year and see what happens. We might have to move the arch eventually. The asparagus is the priority. But I'm thinking we might try growing the Malabar spinach up there. Is this Violetta? Yes. And sunshine. Perfect. I'll go and get my hori. Ooh. Oh, where did I do with it? So actually, when you come down to it, I'm not quite sure how well this is going to work. It's going to work really well for the sunshine beans because they're still so small. But actually, the Violetta have rocketed up. Look at that. They're really big. I'm sure I'll still be able to get that through some mesh. Right, well, I can only try, can't I? I'm going to plant these beans into trenches. This soil is quite poor, although it's got a good mulch on top. What I'm going to do is trench it and then put in the bottom a mixture of leaf mould and well-rotted horse manure just to give the beans a little bit extra because they really don't like growing in our soil. So anything extra we can give them is a bonus. And then I'll just mulch back over the top. The reason that I'm not laying this mesh flat and planting through like I did with the courgettes is because it's not just the beans. Okay, so the beans aren't going to get attacked by birds or whatnot, but what we grow at the front of these arches is we always have rocket, lettuce, parsley, various bits and pieces at the front, and 9 times out of 10 there's something that the birds are going to attack. So I'm trying to do double whammy. That's why I'm not just laying it flat across the soil. I'm trying to make sure that I'm protecting both the roots of the beans, but also whatever it is that we're growing at the front of them. It's going to be quite difficult to harvest what we've got at the front, but I think because it's pinned front and back, I'll be able to lift it up, you know, a bit like a shutter, and it's flexible enough that it's not going to disrupt the growth of the beans if we do that. Well, while I've been doing the Violetta and the Sunshine, Mum has been putting in the Cobra beans on the second arch up. On one side there, we've got lots of really quite well-established parsley plants growing, so I'm going to leave them be. But on this side, I have been salvaging various self-seeded rocket from across the plot. It's a mixture of the wild rocket, which is the really skinny leaf one, and then the Italian rocket, which is the one with the really wide leaves. They're self-seeding all across our plot, but mainly in the asparagus bed, which is where I sourced these ones from. A couple of weeks back, I was salvaging things from this bed for Hampton. It was the leaf chicory, tree spinach, nasturtiums, calendula, all those kind of things. And it's an ongoing process. I'm still picking them up as they're germinating and coming on each week. Suddenly these chicory have got huge though, I must have missed them. This asparagus bed makes the most fantastic like self-seeded seed bed nursery style patch because we keep it clear all summer. I mean, last year we had rather a lot of nasturtiums on here, but ignoring that, normally it's kept really open and clear, so it's fantastic for things to self-seed in here as they blow in from across the plot. Some things don't travel though, and they tend to like self-seed right around their own base, so that's things like the garlic chives, but also the fennel. I found this is frond fennel rather than Florence fennel, you know, the bulbing one. But this has produced some really beautiful little plants around its base that I'm also going to move. I don't think I'll use them for Hampton, but I might put them in along the dahlia bed because the foliage is just so pretty. We're going to head off in a minute actually, but we're having a roast dinner tonight, so rosemary and sage essential. Also, I'm going to clear some of the larger leaves off this chard. I was saying last week when I was talking about the chicory actually that as things start to bolt, they do tend to get much more bitter, and that's the same with lettuces, chicory, all of that kind of family, but absolutely not with the chard. You can eat it right up until the point when the leaves get absolutely tiny, and it's still perfectly delicious. Just another advantage of chard. Oh, okay. Cheers, chaps. Feels a bit like a military operation up at the allotment at the moment, doesn't it? Everything's about defence. I am optimistic about planting through that wire mesh though for the courgettes. I just think it's better than having everything covered in netting because it just makes everything a hassle, you know? Trying to get, it's perfectly fine for things like brassicas, like I say, because they need to be protected from above. But your courgettes, come on, they don't need it. They just need to keep their roots in the soil. which is what the badgers and the foxes don't seem to be that keen on cooperating with. Anyway, talking of animals and pests, it's so nice to have the girls out and about again. I realise that I probably didn't mention at the beginning that the girls are back out and free again now. It is absolutely lovely to have them out. Are you all right there, Bubs? Got the howls. Do you glass of wine, Bubs? Glass of wine? No? She's not much of a drinker. So yeah, having the girls out again is just really, really nice, even though it means that things that we haven't had to protect up until now have to be protected. Swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Anyway, underneath will be links. I mentioned earlier that Alex and I's second podcast came out this week. That's going to be linked underneath, so you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the major like podcasting apps or whatnot, or wherever you normally listen to a podcast. It should be there, and I'll put the links to the major ones underneath. So last week I said that this week I was going to do a Hampton update, but actually we just had a lot more defensive stuff to do than I was anticipating. So the week has been taken up with that, but next week I'll do an update on everything that's happening for Hampton. I'm also going to start feeding stuff. I have been doing a little bit of feeding, particularly for the things that are for the show garden, but for our own stuff I'll start feeding, and that will be with the Shropshire seaweed as normal. We do have a little bit of nettle feed, and there's a bit of comfrey feed left over from last year that I'll use as well, but basically we use the seaweed feed. I'll put a link for that underneath as well. Actually, they've got some exciting new stuff coming out, Shropshire seaweed, that I want to have a go at. They've got like frass, which is the shells of the larva of black soldier flies, I believe. It's something that you can add to the soil that has fantastical properties. Apparently, I haven't looked into it much, as you can probably tell. But it's something I'm quite interested in having a look at. We've got a lot of potting on to be doing next week as well. And on top of that, we're going to Chelsea. So I'll see you next week, chaps.